On a hot July evening in 1932, tanks rolled down the streets of Washington, D.C. Behind them marched U.S. infantry with fixed bayonets and gas masks pulled tight. Ahead of them stood unarmed American veterans, their wives, and their children. These men had once charged enemy lines in France. Now, in the depths of the Great Depression, they were about to be driven from their own capital by the army they had served. To understand how America reached this moment, we have to go back to the end of World War I. When the soldiers came home in 1918, they returned to a country that praised their sacrifice but offered little security. In 1924, Congress passed the Adjusted Compensation Act, promising veterans a bonus for their wartime service. The catch was devastating. Most veterans would not receive their money until 1945, more than 20 years later. Each man received a certificate stating what he was owed, like a locked savings bond he could not cash. During the booming 1920s, many accepted the delay. Then the stock market crashed in 1929, and everything changed. By 1932, factories were silent, farms were failing, and up to 1 in 4 American workers was unemployed. For many veterans, the unpaid bonus was the thin line between hunger and survival. Across the country, an idea began to spread. What if the government paid the bonus now, when it was needed most? In Oregon, an unemployed former sergeant named Walter Waters began organizing. He called for veterans to march on Washington and demand immediate payment. They would not come with weapons, he insisted, but with their uniforms, their medals, and their families. They called themselves the Bonus Expeditionary Force, or simply the Bonus Army. By trains, trucks, hitchhiking, and on foot, they moved east. Newspapers reported entire freight cars filled with veterans bound for the capital. When they reached Washington in May 1932, they were joined by veterans from every state in the Union. At their peak, more than 15,000 veterans, some estimates say up to 20,000, including families, crowded into the city. They built a sprawling camp of tents, tar paper shacks, and scrap wood huts on the muddy flats of the Anacostia River. They organized their own police, mess halls, and even a newspaper. Local Washingtonians brought food, blankets, and clothing. Even the city's police chief quietly sympathized with them. Inside the Capitol, Congress debated the Patman Bill, which would pay the bonus immediately. In mid-June, the House of Representatives passed it. But in the Senate, the bill was crushed, defeated by a vote of 62 to 18. As the news reached the camps, silence fell, then angry shouts, then despairing tears. Many veterans packed up and left, accepting government offers of travel money to go home. But thousands refused to move. They had come so far, they said, and they had nothing to return to. President Herbert Hoover watched with growing alarm. Some advisors warned him that radicals and communists were infiltrating the Bonus Army. Hoover feared that the encampment might become a spark for wider unrest. On July 28, 1932, the situation exploded. Early that day, the Attorney General ordered Washington police to clear a smaller group of veterans who had occupied abandoned federal buildings downtown. When officers tried to push them out, a scuffle turned deadly. Shots were fired. 2 veterans, William Hushka and Eric Carlson, lay mortally wounded. Hoover, shaken by the bloodshed, ordered the U.S. Army to restore order and protect federal property. He specified that force should be limited and that the main Anacostia camp should not be assaulted. But the man in charge was General Douglas MacArthur, the Army's ambitious chief of staff. MacArthur believed he was facing, in his words, a revolutionary threat. That afternoon, about 600 soldiers advanced down Pennsylvania Avenue. Cavalry units under Major George S. Patton led the way, followed by infantry with rifles and fixed bayonets, and several rumbling tanks. Among MacArthur's aides that day was a young major named Dwight D. Eisenhower. Crowds lined the sidewalks, stunned, watching as American troops formed up against American veterans. At first, the soldiers used tear gas and steady pressure, pushing veterans away from key buildings. But MacArthur went further than he had been ordered. As evening fell, he drove the veterans out of their smaller downtown camp and then crossed the bridge toward the main encampment on Anacostia Flats. Tear gas drifted through the maze of shacks and tents as men, women, and children fled in panic. Flames soon rose into the night sky. The Bonus Army's City of Hope was burning. By morning, little was left but ashes and twisted corrugated metal. An infant later died, reportedly from the effects of gas, and many were hospitalized. MacArthur insisted he had smashed a dangerous uprising led by subversives. Hoover's administration claimed that law and order had been restored, but photographs of veterans and families driven out at bayonet point horrified the country. One image, cavalrymen in gas masks riding past the Capitol dome, seemed to many Americans like a scene from a different kind of government. Candidate Franklin D. Roosevelt watched carefully. According to one aide, he remarked, "Hoover just made me president." That November, Hoover was resoundingly defeated at the polls. The story of the Bonus Army did not end in the ashes of Anacostia. In 1933, another group of veterans returned to Washington, again seeking their bonus. This time, President Roosevelt responded differently. He sent not tanks, but his wife. Eleanor Roosevelt visited the camp, listened to the men, and offered many of them jobs in the newly created Civilian Conservation Corps. In 1936, Congress finally passed a law to pay the bonus early, overriding Roosevelt's veto. The Bonus Army's suffering had helped force a change in how America treated its veterans. In the years that followed, the United States created far more generous programs for those who served, culminating in the famous GI Bill after World War II. Ironically, some of the officers who drove the Bonus Army from Washington, MacArthur, Patton, and Eisenhower, would later lead American forces in another global war. The Bonus Army March remains one of the starkest tests of American democracy. When veterans begged for the promises they were owed, their government answered with fear, gas, and fire. Yet their stand reshaped policy, elections, and the nation's conscience. The next time you hear a debate about veterans' benefits, protest, or law and order, remember the men who once built a city of shacks beneath the Capitol dome. Their struggle still echoes. For more untold stories of moments when history stood on a knife's edge, watch the videos now appearing on your screen.